All right. Well, today we have Stephen Schmidt with us, who many of you have uh, had training with him before and requested additional training. So several months ago, Steve and I were talking that uh, how do you put this? I think we need to put as we look at our funding for the future and belonging to Department of Labor and our students not always identifying the skills they truly have. It's like, so what do you think about talking about helping our students identify and then communicate their skills in such a way that it's advantageous for them when when they were looking for work, when they're out advocating for themselves in any type of situation. So um, he was nice enough to do some research for us and put some activities together, and now he's joining us. It's January already.
Wow.
So Happy New Year. And thank you for coming, Stephen.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, did you have any other housekeeping? Are we ready to start?
You go right ahead.
Okay, sounds good. Well, welcome everyone. It's good to see you again. And thank you for the many who have their cameras on. That's great. That's the sign rather of a great webinar. So thank you for turning your cameras on. And if you haven't turned your camera on and you can, please do so because I do think it really makes things better and more collegial, if you will, when we can see each other. And you know, please don't flood the chat with "I can't turn my camera on because" one of my reasons here. You're forgiven if you can't, and understood. I realize, having been a former state employee, I realize that sometimes we don't always have the equipment that we need, and the if your laptop was just upgraded to Windows 98, I realize that it might be difficult to use the camera. So get that, no problem whatsoever if that is the case. Let's see. I think I need to share my screen. Why don't we do that? Okay, there we go. And I think we are seeing it. Yay. So that's a good thing. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our webinar today. Now, a couple things. This is not going to be Steve talk for an hour and 15 minutes. We are scheduled for an hour in 15 minutes. So just want to make that up front because we are going to do several activities. I want to make this as interactive as possible. And I actually have seen some of your previous T3s and have seen a great deal of interaction. So let's keep that going today, please. And thank you. And as Kim mentioned, our goal today is we're going to talk about ways where we can help learners identify what their soft skills are. And we'll define, I always believe in defining terms, and we'll talk about what soft skills are. But what I really want to do is not make your life more complicated. I want to make your life easy. And I'm going to show you some easy ways that we can do this while we're still teaching the reading, writing, and math that we do already. So I hope that sounds fair. And I know many of you, the names are familiar, and I have presented once, twice, or three times in South Dakota, both live and virtually during different times. But if for those who don't know me, I am Steve Schmidt. I have been involved in adult basic ed for 33 years, and I am, as always, thrilled to be back with you. You've got some great things going on in South Dakota, and I've always looked up to what your state is doing. I think you're among the leaders across the country in the work that you're doing. So good job and way to go. And I'm glad to be interacting with you again today. So, without further ado, oh, handout. Yes, please. Steve always has a handout because Steve doesn't like to do presentations with bulleted PowerPoints. So, I always do instead a handout. And let me put in the chat
The
the
link,
link to the handout.
there's a link in the chat already with it.
No way. Get
Yeah,
out.
because I'm good. Because we're always
Well,
ahead, remember?
well, I still want to put the link in.
You can if you want.
Don't deprive me of the joy of putting the link in the chat.
Kim, can you see us? Because we can't find our own view on here and I don't have it hidden. So I just want to make sure. Oh, there we are. It just popped up. Okay.
You just have to
We can see
scroll.
you and we
No,
can
I
hear
did
you.
scroll. It just wasn't there. It wasn't. Sarah will confirm. All right, but we're there now. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. You want to take the first part of the session?
No.
He's real. Okay. Okay. Well, just thought I'd ask, just in case you were ready to go. Okay. Well, I'll plug you in later then, Kim. No problem. We can do that. Um, okay, so thank you for grabbing the handout, and I will be referring to it throughout. So if you have any issues with getting it, Kim can work magic and help you to receive it. So thanks in advance for taking a look at that, and we will be using it again throughout our session today. Okay, let's do this in the chat, please. And one of the very first things I learned when I got into adult ed many, many moons ago was about the power of giving our adult learners choices. And so, what I would like for you to do in the way of introducing yourself in the chat, I'm going to give you a choice. You can answer one or the other of these. And when the answers or the questions are, what do you hope to learn today? And the second one is, what is a soft skill? Please don't Google it or get the AI rolling on it. From what you're understanding, what is a soft skill, or what do you hope to learn today? If you're feeling really like a type A person and you have to answer everything, yeah, I will respect that. That's fine. You could go ahead and answer both if you want to. Maybe just a few kudos there for doing that, but you don't feel that you have to do both. You can do one or the other. And let's see. Kim likes calling them essential skills, and I like that too. Call them what you will. Call them what you will. But we could also define what are they. And yes, your programs are amazing. That is very true. Um, Thank you, Natalie, who says that soft skills are skills that can be used in any job. Thank you. Let's see here. Jeremy, yes, I remember you, Jeremy. You always have some great things to say. Let's see, bring your A game. My definition of a soft skill is essential and transferable. Okay, good. Thank you. Let's see. Kim says being successful in the workforce. I think soft skills name is a bad name for something that's so important. Yeah, because soft implies maybe not as important as it could be. I hear you. I hear you. Let's see. Diana says identify the skills they have. Okay, good. Well, you've come to the right place, Diana. Let's see. Heather, welcome, says skills that are needed to communicate, collaborate. All right. Heather's familiar with the four C's already, or at least two of the C's. Sounds good. Thank you, Heather. Jennifer says transferable. Okay. And let's see. MMAC says interpersonal skills that help you use your technical skills. Like that, like that, like that. All right. And let's see. Jennifer says needed to succeed. Okay. Starlin says skills that employers desire most. Very true. That comes on many, many, many surveys that we see from employers. And Kate says abstract skills that can't exactly be taught. The more characteristics like communication, teamwork, etc. Okay. That's a deep thought, Kate. Thank you. And let's see. Becky Lemke says my youth is accountability. Yes, that is a good one to teach, to learn more ways to help them internalize this and other skills. Yes, good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, everyone who responded. We're going to have a good session today. And of course, we do have the ability to unmute as well. And I would definitely love to take advantage of that as well. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. It's going to be a good session today. All right. So it looks like the soft skill was more popular than what you hope to learn today, but that's okay. That's okay. Speaking of okay, let's talk about our objectives today. Three things we're going to try to do today and we'll do today. And first, we're going to describe soft skills. There are a number of definitions of those, and we've gotten several good ones that we've seen already. I'm going to supply one that is a very common one. We're also going to talk about some methods to help learners ID their soft skills that they'll be able to use from job to job. And you'll give you a couple of resources, not only, of course, what's in the packet, but a couple of other resources that you can use as well. So that is our mission today, and I know that we can succeed in it. Okay, let's see. I'm going to take you on a trip, and if you look at the screen, you will see a old cotton spinning mill that is in Hudson, North Carolina, which is just a very close drive from where I live nearby Hudson. And why am I talking about this? Well, we're talking about jobs. And one thing that I learned recently, I was listening to a podcast, I think it was the Planet Money podcast, and they were talking about workers who lost their jobs and needed to re-career or get a new job. And we saw this big time in my state of North Carolina, where we had, especially in this area where I'm in the Western North Carolina, a huge presence in the textile industry and a huge furniture making industry, both of which were huge for 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, 70s. But beginning in the 1980s, especially late 1980s, many of these jobs were lost, both in textiles and in furniture. And so, what they discovered in that podcast that I listened to is that many who lost jobs in these factories didn't necessarily re-career. Some did. You know, some became plumbers or went to work at a hospital or did some other things, but many stayed in manufacturing. They just took other jobs that are available. So this old spinning mill that we see in the picture is now, it still does textile related work, and it's Sattler outdoor fabric. And you can see a picture of some of the high end furniture fabric that people have on their porches and things there. So they still do some of that work. But what they found was that a lot of people who did not change their career when they lost their jobs have a certain job mindset, or in other words, I'm a factory worker, or I'm a construction worker, I'm a whatever. And they found it was difficult for those people to change that mindset. They did not realize what other skills that they had that they could use in other jobs. And so they took jobs still in manufacturing. In many cases, they were lower paying jobs than what they were used to taking. And it's kind of made me sad to hear that, to know that we are so capable as people, as humans, and to limit ourselves with this mindset of just, I can only do this, was a sad thing to realize. So our goal with our students is to help them to realize their potential, realize what they can do and what they can be. And that's really the big thing that we're trying to do today. All right. Do we remember The Wizard of Oz? How many have seen The Wizard of Oz? If you're on camera, raise your hand if you've ever seen The Wizard of Oz.
Well, we have staff in Aberdeen, and guess where the Wizard of Oz came from?
Really? There. Who knew that? I didn't know that. Another South Dakota trivia thing that I did not know. I'm thinking about the Wizard of Oz, and there is one point in time in the Wizard of Oz movie. I'm not sure that this is in the book because I have never read the book, where Glinda, the Good Witch, or I guess that depends on who you believe. Of course, if you've seen Wicked, maybe she's not quite as good as you think, but that's a story for another day. But Glinda says to Dorothy, "You had the power all along to return to Kansas, my dear." And so really that's the theme today, is to help our students to realize that they had the power all along, that the skills they're developing, the academic skills and the soft skills that we can help them identify that they've developed either at home or at work in various jobs or through the work that they're doing in our adult ed programs, that we can show them that they had this power all along, that soft skill power that can help them to be successful in the work that they are doing. So, anyways, we're going to think about Glinda, and we're going to think about we've had the power all along. So, our job is to help and be Glinda. There is Glinda, played by actress Billie Burke. And I learned recently she was in her mid 50s when she took on this role. I had no idea. So, Let's hear it for people over 50, like yours truly. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about soft skills. One definition of the many that for soft skills are the four C's. In other words, these are four words that all start with the letter C: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication are identified sometimes as the soft skills as the four C's. And this is the definition that we're going to run with today. So let's dive in and talk about how these things look in real life. So let's do this first. You can either put in the chat, or if anybody's feeling brave and wants to unmute, let's think about this question. An MRI, I think that's what, magnetic resonating imaging or something like that. How would a child feel about having an MRI scan done? You may have had an MRI scan done. If not, you can see a picture of an MRI machine and a friendly technician getting someone set up to go inside the MRI. But think if you're a child, let's say you're a 6-year-old child and you're facing some medical situation and it requires an MRI scan to be done. How would you feel about having that scan done if you were a child? Let's see. Oh, Steven says L. Frank Baum lived around a newspaper in Aberdeen. Then he moved to Kansas and made them famous. Who knew? Who knew that? Stephen, you're a wealth of information. I'm hearing a common theme here: nervous, apprehensive, scared. Okay. I think we're going on that theme. And everyone who said anything like that would be, yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So what happened then is children needing MRI scans were facing, and parents who are bringing them to have the MRI scans are facing a difficult situation. And so kids were nervous, kids were scared as a matter well, if you've had an MRI done, you may remember that there's certain things you have to do and things you don't do. You have to stay still for usually around 5 minutes or so, which for kids is hard to do for a 1 minute, much less five. And the machine kind of makes some weird noises, bums and clicks and other kinds of things. And so, children have to deal with these, and the parents who bring them have to deal with this. And with some statistics, what they found was about 80% of children going for an MRI had to be sedated. And anytime we're dealing with sedation, that always brings in another level of risk. That always brings in another level of complexity because I got to bring in the anesthetist. Oh, I said anesthetist, so it's going to be a good web because I was able to pronounce it and do all this thing. And people don't always do well under anesthesia. Yours truly had surgery about a year ago, and coming out of the anesthesia was not good. I don't want to think about that. I don't do well with anesthesia. But anyways, facing this issue, 80% of kids had to be sedated as they're going in for an MRI. So what they did was try to think of some ways. Hospitals were trying to think, and GE specifically, who makes MRI machines, was trying to think, how can we work on this problem where these kids who have to have an MRI have to be sedated? What can we do so this doesn't happen? And so they hired a gentleman named Doug Dietz and his design team, and they did something called design thinking. Design thinking, we could do a whole webinar on it, but essentially there's steps in it where you empathize. You try to figure out, okay, what's going on with this problem. You try to put yourself in the position of the parents of the kids who are trying to do the MRI. You define the problem. What would make the MRI experience one in which kids would not have to be sedated? Then they ideate, or in other words, they throw out a bunch of ideas. We could do this, we could do that, we could do the other. Then they set up a prototype and then test it to see if it works. That's essentially what design thinking is in a nutshell. Well, Doug Dietz and his team of consultants at GE came up with what you see on the screen, where they created these cool MRI rooms for kids where instead of going to the scary MRI, they're going on an adventure. So here they're going on a deep sea adventure and looking for the lost city of Atlantis. Or they are on a pirate ship and they're looking for buried treasure and all these things. Or they're going on a space adventure to Mars and they have to remain, very quiet in the space capsule because it's a long trip to Mars and all these things. So what happened was they went, as they prototyped these ideas, they went from 80% of kids needing to be sedated to kids telling their parents, Mommy, can we come back and do this again tomorrow? Because they were so excited about playing in this role play and having this great adventure with the MRI machine. So, Doug Dietz and your team, kudos to you. This is awesome the way they were able to take a very scary experience and make it one where kids wanted to do it again. It was pretty awesome. So, four C's, and I'm on page 2 of the handout. The four C's really came together in this experience with what Doug Dietz did with the MRI machine. They used some critical thinking here. They looked at the problem, they looked at it in several angles from the hospital's viewpoint, from the MRI design team standpoint, from the parents, what the kids were looking at, all these things, examining the problem from different angles before making a choice or trying to solve the problem. They used creativity. That was amazing to create these new designs here and create these stories so kids could have fun instead of be terrified for having the MRI done. There was a design team. It wasn't just Doug Dietz. It was all the folks that were working with him, and they worked together to reach a common goal. And then, of course, they're communicating along the way, sharing ideas as they work together. So, in a nutshell, those are the four C's. And you do have in your handout on page 3 a very simple definition of all of the four C's. And then you have some ideas on how that we potentially could teach it. And what I hope you're seeing, and I'm not going to read out all the list of the different ways that you can teach it. What I hope you're seeing as you look at this is that, hey, I'm doing these things already. And what I hope you're seeing, and if not, maybe some other ideas of some things that we could do. But and you're great instructors, and I would bet that you're probably doing many of these things already for sure. So some ideas on page 3 of some ways to teach teach the four C's. But as I said earlier, I want to press the easy button. I don't want to make your life more difficult, more hard. I want to make your life more easy. So we're going to look at some simple ways in which we can focus on these soft skills, help students identify them, and then be able to tell future employers about the skills they have. So we're pressing the easy button. And I guess the easiest of the easiest buttons is just to do after at the end of an activity where we've done critical thinking and showed creativity and a learning activity that we've done is just reflect on how we may have done it by asking these questions orally. That's the easy way. So page 4 lists a number of questions that we could ask our students at the end of any learning activity that we've done. And we could say, how do we communicate during this activity? How did we work together during this activity? What critical thinking skills did we develop during this? How did we show creativity? And that starts the brain working and the brain rolling and the brain understanding these different ways that we're using the four C's. So this is the easy way to do that. We could just ask some of these questions based on the activity that we did. Okay, let's practice this because I want to demonstrate and show you how this is going to work. And Kim will give you a heads up that we're going to need the breakout rooms here in just a minute. So I know you're in the background packing there, so you can go ahead and put the box grab the breakout room. Okay, so everyone, I hope that you still have some energy left here at the end of the day after a hard day of teaching or administrating or filling out paperwork or whatever it was that we were involved with today. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're all in this situation together. And the situation is this: we were on a cruise and the boat we were on sank. Terrible thing. We escaped, though, however, in a small raft, but you will see that this raft has limited carrying capacity. and we are adrift on the open water and we are awaiting rescue, which we do not know when that might come. So, on the raft, which has a lot of bodies in it, we only have room for five essential items. If we have a sixth item, the raft is going to sink, and we do not want that. We want to stay afloat. We can only have five things on the raft. So, in a minute, you are going to go to a breakout room and you are going to work together to decide which five items that you're going to keep and explain why. And the items that you have, and I will put these in the chat so you will have access to them. You have to pick five of these items, and you can only pick five. You cannot pick six. You cannot pick seven. You cannot pick eight. You can pick five. Is the max that you could do. So your choices are, and rescue is indeterminate. We have no idea because we weren't able to get a good SOS out before the ship went down. Happened rather very suddenly. And so we do not know when help might arrive. But we've got the potential to keep 5 gallons of fresh water, a box of high calorie energy bars, a signaling mirror, just a mirror that we can catch the sun with and signal back and forth. And you could also check your makeup if you wanted to, but we could use it to signal for help. A battery powered handheld GPS, a flare gun equipped with 3 flares that are still dry, a small fishing kit, a lightweight tarp that is the classic 8 by 10 foot length, a basic first aid kit to handle basic first aid, a bucket and a rope, and a cell phone in a waterproof case that has 50% battery life because somebody before the ship went down was watching some YouTube videos and ran down a lot of the power, but about half of it is left. So let's see here. I'm going to go and I'm going to grab those items and I'm going to put these in. So what questions do we have about what we're supposed to do? Because you're going to go in a breakout room here in just a second, and you are going to have to decide which five of these 10 items you will take. And what questions do we have? We can chat those, we can unmute them. You'll have 6 minutes, by the way. I don't think I said that. Your group's going to have 6 minutes. So, Kim, if we could set those rooms for 6 minutes, please, and thank you, to decide what items to keep and be ready to explain why you choose these. And I'm going to give you no other direction because we're at sea and we don't have a whole lot of time to get organized in terms of a group leader or a note taker or an encourager or whatever. We're just boom, boom, here it is. So, questions about what we're to do here in the breakout room? I don't hear any. I don't see any. Okay. So, Kim, if you would please, when you're ready, if we could go ahead and get folks in the breakout rooms. 6 minutes, you'll have those five items, and you have those items in the chat, and I'll probably put them back there.
Hi, Kim. I have to run and get my child from school. Are you gonna throw me in a breakout room? What's that? Room 6.
Maybe we were the only group actually done on time. We finished right before the announcement came.
I could see you guys being an overachiever group.
We won't tell you that I took a screenshot of the slide and shared my screen in the breakout room, and then I used the annotate to cross off and circle the ones we wanted.
Well, there you go. Because that's how we work, right?
Yep. And then there was a tie, and we had a tie-breaking vote. So yeah.
Nice.
Oh, well, I don't know about you, but I'm a little stressed out after our work to try to decide
Okay.
what things we needed, even though I just sat in the background and made a jokey comment or two here and there, but still stressed. But anyway, I just speaking for the room I was in, Kate, Jennifer, Renee, they did an awesome job. Very, very impressed. Let me go back to the screen here and let's see here. There we go. Come back. Okay. So we had 6 minutes, which isn't a lot, to decide. Let's debrief. And I might ask a few folks. I'll ask for volunteers first, and then I did take a few notes about different people that were in different rooms. I'll voluntold you if we don't hear. Why don't we start with the amazing group that I was sort of a part of? Kate, would you mind? You seem to take the role on of group leader. Would you mind sharing what items that your group chose and why?
Sure thing. Um, the first thing we all said was water, so that's our number one. We debated whether we wanted phone or the GPS, and we decided ultimately phone was better. We also debated if we need a signaling mirror or a flare gun or both. And we decided both. Possibly the signaling mirror could be used to signal other boats more like short distance, whereas the flares could be long distance. Also, the mirror can be reused, whereas the flares we only got three. So we decided both. And our last item was a tarp to protect from the elements and also to possibly lock some heat in if it gets really cold at night on the high sea.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Jennifer and Renee, and your group. The really some high level critical thinking going on as different items were debated. Was very impressed with how you did. Let's see, Jeremy. I don't know if you're the group leader or spokesperson. Would you mind talking about your group and what items that you decided on and why, please?
Yeah, I can share out, and then if the others don't like what I say, they can interrupt me, but I think I will portray accurately what we talked about. So we also, you can survive for a long time without food, but not water. So first and foremost, the fresh water would be important. Um, and we chose the signaling mirror and not the flare gun because with the flare gun, we'd have three chances. It would be consumable, it would be gone. And so, yes, it would give a longer distance signal, but we thought the signaling mirror would be more practical. And then we also have a secondary way for it to be located, which I will get to. Um, Actually, I'll move to the tarp next. So, in addition to what the other group said about protecting from the elements, Diana also pointed out it could be used to collect rainwater. So that water that we're taking is only going to last so long. We're going to want to have a sustainable way to get water, even in small amounts, since we don't know how long we're going to be out there. And then the cell phone in the waterproof case. We chose that over the GPS. We thought it would be redundant because cell phones already have GPS built into them. And my understanding of that is even if they're in airplane mode or turned on with just the bare elements, not that we could make phone calls or anything like that out on the open sea, but it would still ping the GPS signal and it would serve as like a locational beacon for anyone who is searching for us. And then the last one was the one that we were least sure about. But for our fifth item, we begrudgingly, I think, uh, chose the fishing kit because sure, you can survive a long time without food, but you can't survive forever. And if it got to the point that we absolutely needed to eat to survive, that fishing kit would give us a way that we could actually get a food source. So that we could um, live. And by the time we had to eat raw fish, improperly cleaned, we probably wouldn't care once it got to that point. But Karen did point out she doesn't like sushi, so
I'm so with you. Thank you, Jeremy, for your group. Amazing job. Very excellent. If we had time, I would poll all of the groups. Um, but of course, this really isn't the point. This is an activity that would help us to. I would really want to demonstrate the reflection. So, um, if your group really wants to share the five items that you did and you want to put those in the chat, go ahead and knock yourself out. That's fine. You can do so. So let's go looking at page 4. Let's talk about let's reflect a minute. I believe that we did all of the four C's in this activity. We communicated, we collaborated, we used critical thinking as we were looking at the different items, and we had to be creative to decide because it's limited amount of time, and we had to come up with a feasible solution in a very small amount of time. So let me ask folks in another group, maybe Becky or designee in your group, how did you do any of the four C's? Talk about any of the four C's. How did you communicate? How did you collaborate? How did you critically think? How did you show creativity? Please, Becky or designee from your group.
Well, I think we communicated very well, and we all took a turn um, talking about what the items that we would put on our personal lists, and then we looked at the items that we had in common, which I think probably takes us to both collaborating and critical thinking. Talking about why did you pick this one over that one? What would be the uses for these things? Um, we all had a turn to talk. We all listened to one another and then we had a chance to explain and defend our choices and then listen in a collaborative and critical thinking way to why other people made their choices too.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to share how in your group you showed the four C's? Practicing some wait time here. Okay, I've practiced enough wait time, I think. Um, Becky, thank you. You and your group did a wonderful job. But this is the easy button. We did an activity which involved learning, and we did the four C's along with it. And all we had to do at the end of the activity was ask a couple of questions. Students, may not be able to immediately, of course, give the eloquent answer that Becky did, but we spend some time teaching a little bit about what the four C's are and providing examples of them and asking students to provide examples of them. We can then, at the end of any activity that we're doing, any reading, writing, math activity, we can do this. So this is really where the easy button comes in. So we can use this page 4. You can develop your own questions along those same lines if you would rather. And this all goes back to the Glinda principle. We had showing students that they had the power all along, that they can do these things that employers value in the workplace. So this is the easiest way in which to do this. What else can we do? Well, I think a good way to start with this would be to do a lesson on soft skills. And if you don't like this definition, use whatever one you have, or if you're using a pre-prepared curriculum that might have a slight difference with what these are, great, use those. But you teach what these things are, and then there's some examples in there on page 2 about how to do those. So this is a good place to start. Excuse me, teach students what the four C's are and how they're made up, and provide examples from school, home, the workplace as to how these things are done. So once students are familiar with these, then we can do things like the reflection activity on page 4. And another more concrete way to do this is we could do something like what you find there on page 5, where you're asked to identify transferable skills. And I've worked with a lot of students over the years, and sometimes students don't really feel, especially that have had limited or no work experience, that they really don't have a lot to offer. And especially, I remember seeing a lot of displaced workers or folks that were homemakers for years and suddenly through life circumstances are having to complete a high school equivalency and find a job, and really didn't think they had much to offer. But when we sat down and looked in deep and did a deep dive, they realized that they had a lot more to offer than what they thought they did. And so we can see some examples on page 5 that might help get the ball rolling to help students identify those skills. You use social media and WhatsApp to let neighbors know the rates you charge to do yard work. Communication, you noticed something happened in the community and you let the mayor's office know about it. Collaboration, you working at a job and one of your coworkers came down with the flu. It's January. It's going to happen. So you had to fill in and assign their tasks to other people, et cetera, et cetera. So once again, that power is there. Students have done a lot of these things. It's just a question of helping them see how to identify that. So, several different ways to do it. Teach what these skills are, and then we can do these various types of reflection activities. And I always say, if please take this and don't feel that you have to use it as is. Please take it, make it better, improve it, tweak it how it fits to you. I will not be at all offended. I'll be happy, number one, that you're using it, and two, that you made it your own. So don't think, oh, I can't change anything because Steve will get mad. Steve will have no idea what would you do with it. So please take it and make it your own, please. So let's look at another brief, quick example. So we're trying to do reading skills with our students. And one way that we could practice reading skills is to look at a job description And I have combed the job boards looking for some South Dakota specific employment. And I found a job that I'd be perfect for in Spearfish, which I think is in far western South Dakota, not too far from Wyoming, if I am not mistaken. So it's Spearfished Forest Products. The name kind of threw me a bit. Forest and Spearfish. I didn't really see a good connection there. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. But anyway, they've got an entry level job that requires no experience. So I'm all over this. They'll train me. So here we go. But anyway, we could read over the job description with our students. Detail oriented, capable of carrying out a given task, dedicated, devoted to a task or purpose with loyalty and integrity. And there may be some vocabulary lessons that we would need to do throughout this. A team player, something they prefer somebody who is a self starter. So we could read through and unpack this job description. And you thought you had all the graphic organizers you needed in the packet. Well, of course, we've got even one more that you could use if you so choose to. On page 6, the old what, why, how graphic organizer that does duty in a lot of ways. I've used this for the GED extended response as a way to unpack evidence. This what, why, how does a lot of different things, but we could use it for this. The what would be what qualifications does the job require? Why am I the right person for the job? And then show how, giving some evidence there. Excuse me, and there's a sample there at the top. If the job asked for good time management, there's a sample of how we could would potentially show this. And then this particular job, if we wanted to really dial down into this, asked for detail-oriented, dedicated team player. So we could put those in the various columns on page 6 and work with students to help them to see how they have shown these things in the past, at home, at previous jobs, in school. So a lot of different possibilities to do. And again, please take these if you find they're helpful, modify it to fit your needs. You have my blessing to do this and change it however would work well. Okay. Breathing point. How are we doing so far? Questions, comments, thoughts? Unmute, please. Chat, please.
Steve, I really like the idea of reading a job description because those words are very large. And if they don't understand them, they won't even understand if they have the skill. So I really like that idea of giving them that higher academic vocabulary in their job search. So that's a skill I'm going to try to bring into my low level if I can't get it there.
It's good. Thank you. Thank you. Well said. Well said. We've got some definitely some tier 3 type vocabulary, job specific or more abstract vocabulary there. Most definitely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that thought. Any other questions or comments or thoughts?
I like the idea of
Hopefully, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I like the idea of taking jobs that aren't necessarily the ones that many of our students are pigeonholed into or think that they're
Mhm.
only available for, so that they can look and see where those same words, like a compare and contrast to the type of job they have versus other types of jobs in the community.
Sure, I'm curious, what types of jobs do you feel that our students are pigeonholed into?
Um, a lot of manufacturing and
Processing.
food processing,
Mhm.
um, and even manufacturing, entry level manufacturing versus one, like language being the barrier for them to get to those intermediate or higher level skills, manufacturing jobs with better wages.
Mhm. Or manufacturing jobs that require using CNC machining that requires programming or other things. Yeah, I get you. Okay,
Exactly.
I get you.
And yeah, adding $10 an hour to your wage
Makes a
easily.
big difference. Makes a big
Yeah.
difference. Because I still think back to the last time that I was in South Dakota at your summer conference, and I remember meeting a young man who worked at the Arrowwood Resort, and he was in the graveyard shift because I came down early in the morning to get some help. And I saw him later in the day working at a convenience store. And then I talked with him and I said, "Man, do you have every job here in town?" And he said, "Yeah, I work at Arrowwood. I work at the convenience store, and I also deliver magazines on Friday." And but he's doing this because he's trying to string together all these low wage jobs to make it. And I don't remember if I encouraged him to go to one of our local adult ed programs. I hope I did. I hope I did. I don't remember. That was a couple of years ago. So thank you for those good thoughts. But I hope you're seeing that this isn't rocket science. Rocket science. This is not just having a basic discussion after students are aware of soft skills is a huge answer to this. Okay, now let's dive into this. If you join me on page 8, let's look at this. How can students damage their chances of employment due to their social media use? And bonus, if someone unmutes and tells an actual story, but not, of course, mentioning the name of the student. How can students
I can
damage
share
their
one.
employment chances? Go ahead.
I was interviewing a young man, and I really liked him and everything else. The other gal interviewing with me, same thing. He was top of the deal, and I checked his social media. He was wearing a shirt with marijuana leaves all over it. He had marijuana leaves all over the background and so on. And yeah, I didn't hire him, and he actually asked me why I didn't hire him, and I asked him to check out his social media page. And I said, you might want to take a good look at that and do some reconstruction on your page.
Eugene or Jeannie, I'm
This
not
is
100%
Jeannie, yeah.
sure.
And we checked a couple days later, and by gosh, he did change everything. So
Good for you. You made an
yeah.
impact. I have to say this. I guess he was looking for a high level position.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I had to do it. Had to do it. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Well, anyways, we have seen and dealt with these situations before where our students have done questionable things online and it's out there and it's going to damage their chances for future employment. So, this is another activity that we can do. And this is based on a real world situation. So join me, please, on page 8. This is an actual hospital social media guidelines that they put out that I've tweaked a little bit, but it's very, very close to one healthcare provider's actual social media policy. And basically, I'm not going to take the time to read through all of it, but if we were doing this in class, we could really spend some time doing this. And there you might say, well, yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the reading level and thinking, whoa, this is really high for my students. And I would say to that, okay, go ahead and adapt it. There's so many wonderful tools out there now, like Diffit for teachers, Diffit. Grab the text, put it into Diffit, make it easier. Adjust it for your learners. Diffit, Diffit for teachers is out there. That's one of the many apps that are out there that can help with this now that we didn't used to have. Generative AI tools is the word that I was looking for. So anyway, let's just take a brief glance. We don't have time to unpack this hugely. But and again, remember our big picture is we're trying to figure out as we do these different activities, what soft skills are we using here? How are we communicating? How are we being creative? How are we collaborating? How are we being creative? We may not necessarily do all of these in every activity. And this one, as you see on the top of page 8, is more designed as a critical thinking activity. But basically, if we were going to sum this up, it really says don't be stupid online. And of course, it says that in many more words, and it says some things that this particular hospital wants to make sure that number one, that you're not sharing patient information. There are rules and laws regarding HIPAA. I forget what HIPAA stands for, health something 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 or other. And so we've got to keep patient information confidential. It mentions, right in the first person, and unless you actually are the hospital's spokesperson, you can't say, I'm speaking on behalf of the hospital, and they say, put a disclaimer like the views expressed on this communication are my own and don't reflect the views of my employer. That's the third paragraph. Fourth paragraph says that your social media activities should be consistent with the high levels of professionalism. The next paragraph, be professional, use good judgment, and be accurate and honest in your communication. And no endorsing in the second to last paragraph, and then don't include the hospital's name or logo unless you are that official communication person. So that's kind of this in the nutshell. Let's look on page 9, and we're going to check out and see some posts that were written by hospital employees. And let's see, I see several folks talking about, oh, and thank you. And someone identified what HIPAA is. Awesome, awesome. But let's look at a couple of posts. And what our goal is to see, do these posts meet the high standards of social media communication outlined by McLean Hospital? So join me, please, on page 9, or you can look at the screen. So here we go. And again, our filter is, does this meet what we saw on the previous page? Okay, here we go. Post number 1. My charge nurse at McLean, so we've identified the hospital, is a fool. She plays favorites all the time. If you're her friend, life's easy. And if not, you get all the grunt work. Today, she gave me 5 extra patients to see while she herself was responsible for none, even though our floor was packed. I can see that she gave her pets, who she names, fewer patients too. The witch makes my blood boil. She spends most of her time talking to her pets and trying to make herself look good to her boss. Meanwhile, me and the other nurses on the outs do all the work. Her pets do little and get away with murder. McLean should fire her stat, which is a medical term meaning immediately, and get someone on the floor who knows how to nurse. And then all caps, I've had it with this incompetent nurse and hospital, and the hashtag furious on the 4th floor. So I know this is going to require a lot of time and effort to think about this. So our question is for this, and take all the time that you need. Look back here. Does this post follow McLean's high standards for social media guidelines? And we want to be specific as to what it does. If it doesn't, what does it do that does not follow those guidelines? Why don't we have some brave person unmute and talk a little bit? Or I could volunteer someone who looks semi-awake.
Well, it's clearly not respectful nor professional to her fellow employees, nor to the hospital itself.
And be specific, please. What do we see
Okay,
in there that
so
does not do that?
well, for example, just in general, talking about her coworker like this, she calls her coworker a witch, accuses her, makes wild accusations about her coworker, accusing her of having pets that can quote unquote get away with murder, calling her incompetent. So I feel that those are examples of things that would violate the part of the social media policy that says be respectful and professional to fellow employees, business partners, competitors, and patients.
Okay. So love the answer there because we were specific. This is what the policy says. This is how the policy was not handled. And this was not based on a real world situation. So I don't know what would have happened if someone had done something like this. It probably would not have been good. They probably would not earn Employee of the Month. What do you think? I don't think they would. I don't think they would, or Employee of the Quarter. I don't think they would make it for this particular situation. Let's look at another post that may be a little more, for require a little bit more critical thinking here. This is also on page 9. It's the second post that has text and a picture. In it, the picture shows a nurse or other healthcare professional with a walker and an elderly patient sitting on the bed. And it reads, "So happy my all-time favorite patient's leaving McLean today and headed home. 5 exclamation marks. So thankful. I think there's even more, 6 exclamation points there. So let's think about this. And again, comparing it briefly to what we looked at a few minutes ago with the social media policy. And would love to hear from someone else about, does this meet the social media guidelines? And then we have a second question here, which is, how could this be changed? And please unmute if you would like to. Like your comment in the chat, Stephen, about meeting people on the way down.
That all
Yeah.
sorts of violates HIPAA because
Yeah.
of the picture. Certainly they can say, post the comment, my all-time favorite patient is leaving, but putting up the picture of the patient is an absolute violation.
Even though they don't identify who the patient is?
A picture identifies everybody. That's
Uh-huh.
identifying, yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts about this particular post and the picture?
Personally, if it was me, I would not have the picture at all. I think the text is fine. I would either take the picture down. I think it's the best choice. If you really, really, really wanted to do the picture, you could blur the face. I would take the picture down, is the best choice.
As would I, yes.
Yeah, good. And thank you for answering the second part of that, which is, how could this be changed? And you've provided several ones with the taking the picture out or blurring the picture. Any other comments on this post? So I think we're getting a couple in the chat. Yeah, and photography and video. Thank you, Jeremy, are mentioned. Karen says, let's remove a couple of those exclamation points. I'll give you an exclamation point for that, Karen. Absolutely. Absolutely. Just thinking with this, if I had ever been at that hospital, I'd be upset. And I thought I was the all-time favorite patient. And, this person's the all-time favorite patient. So I don't know if that's really good customer service, but that's a minor, that's a minor compared to the HIPAA violations that we're dealing with here. Thank you for the good comments. Okay, we're ready for one more. Let's check out this. This is on page, actually, this is on page 10. So ignore the page 9, it's on page 10. Let's look at this post. So we have a young, looks like a nursing student, and they've got a McLean Hospital badge on. And let's see what the caption says. They say, wow, 4 exclamation points. Karen's upset already. Look what I got to play with today in nurses training, a human placenta. Hashtag placenta power. So let's think about this. Does it follow the social media guidelines? And if not, how could it be changed? And I'll tell you, this is a real life situation, and I'll tell you how it ended. I'll tell you the rest of the story after we unpack it. Yeah, Jeannie, I don't know how many people want to see it, except the baby was happy it was around for about 9 months, but I don't know that we want to see it now.
Well, and when people post like pictures of their surgery, their cuts and pedicures and all that stuff, I think all that stuff should not be in social media. It's just gross. But that's my opinion.
Just gross. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah, someone yesterday was showing me their scars from surgery and their stitches, and I'm like, well, thanks, but I don't really see this. This is very nice. But anyway, okay. Distasteful. Oh, it definitely violates common sense. This may fall under, using good judgment. Okay, good comments both in the chat. Thank you for those. Okay, I want to tell you the rest of the story. This was based on a real life situation. So these nursing students, and I don't know where this was, were doing placenta, looking at placentas as part of their nurses training. And one of the young ladies in the nurses program, I'm assuming this was like a community college, technical college training program, said to their instructor, I'm going to go ahead and post a picture of us with the placenta on social media, whatever it was. And the instructor said, oh, you girls. and then the student proceeded to post it. Well, they found out about it. The administration at the community college found this picture and they dismissed the student from the nursing program. The student sued and said they had been wrongfully dismissed from the nursing program. Case went to court. And the judge ruled in the student's favor. They said because the instructor said, "Oh, you girls," that was a condoning that action, and that the instructor didn't say, "No, you can't do that." So the students were reinstated to the nursing program. So social media can definitely get you into trouble. So anyway, let's think about this. We're not going to do any more examples. Let's do some reflection. And I think probably the biggest thing we did, I guess we did do some collaboration, but let's just think for a minute. How did we communicate during this activity? And how did we do critical thinking during this activity? Either in the chat or if someone would like to unmute. How did we do communication, of course, can be oral, written, if we do a writing activity. How did we communicate? How did we do critical thinking inside this activity?
Well, I think the critical thinking came when we had to prove our point by going back to the document that gave us our rules. So we had to stop and think about, did it follow those rules? Can I say why I chose that as incorrect or correct by whether or not it obeyed the rules of the hospital?
Well said, Diana. Thank you. Okay, so how do we practice? And if we had done, there's several ways, several things we can do with that activity. We could ask students to rewrite them. And if we do that, then they would have practiced some communication. Of course, our oral discussion as well would have done this in addition to Diana's outstanding answer there. So we could just simply use this reflection activity is the easiest way to do it. So, I had more time to do this. But anyway, we've got to deal with the time that we have. What I hope that you're coming away with is a couple of tools to use to help your students identify their soft skills. And I really hope that you're coming away from this seeing this is not complicated. We can just have a very simple discussion that takes 2 or 3 minutes. Or if we want to get in more in depth, we've got a couple of tools, some graphic organizers we could use to really help unpack, and that we could be Glinda and help students to realize that they have that power all along. One other thing that I did want to mention was let's take a quick peek at page 7. Just another suggestion here. Let's see, this was in the late summer of 2024. I had the opportunity to go to Kurdistan, which is a semi-autonomous region in northern Iraq, and teach conversational English to some college instructors. And there you see a picture of a very tired me. Because that was a demanding trip over there. And then, oh man, it was late August and it was this hot, it was 90, it was like 105 degrees in the shade. But anyway, um, so dealing with folks whose English was not their native language, which of course ESOL teachers and ESL teachers are dealing with every day. But I had read about this some years ago about giving students jobs in the classroom because we do have some of our students that have never worked before and really in their homes don't have good models of people working. Well, why couldn't we give them jobs to do in our classroom? This saves us work because they can do various things. This builds retention because they feel a part of the class. And of course, it helps build their soft and hard skills. But I have an arrow pointing to the lady sitting in front of me. I'll call her Dr. N and respect her anonymity. But she saved my bacon every day. She was like my cultural liaison because I didn't always understand if what I was teaching or the things that we were doing were resonating, and she was able to tell me. She would always say something like, "They're getting it. You can move on," or "that we do not understand," or something like that. And that was huge to help me. But I had a logistics engineer who made sure the air conditioning was running because it was well over 100 degrees outside. So that air conditioning was vital to have. and the technology coordinator who would start up the smart board. I wasn't expecting that. Had a smart board in that classroom, which was amazing. And he made sure the smart board was up and working there. But there's several jobs there that are that are outlined. But and these are some ways that we can help students to build their skills in addition to helping us, because teaching is always challenging. And so having extra hands to help helps a lot. So different ways to do this. There are in the handout other activities as well, but essentially what I hope I'm getting is you can do that soft skills reflection on page 4 with any activity where when you're doing teaching academic skills and you've done critical thinking, you've done creativity, you've done communication, you've done collaboration to unpack those. So you don't have to just use it with any of these things in the handout. You can do that reflection activity with anything. Okay, so how are we doing? Um, we have, I think, another minute or so. If we had questions or comments or thoughts, or of course we could put those in the chat. Or I don't know, Kim, if you wanted to say any words of wisdom, you could say them.
Yeah, that would be first, wouldn't it? No. Um, Thanks, Stephen, for joining us today, and thank everyone else for joining us. I would encourage you to. Ooh, I thought I was posting. Yeah, I'm okay. I'd encourage you to check out the T3s coming up. They are listed on the South Dakota All PD page, which was one of the links. If you just go to the southdakotall.org page and you can go to professional development, you can find the upcoming training events. And then this morning, a registration went out for the, oh my Lord, sorry, it flew out of my head. Upcoming study circle.
Motivating the adult learner.
Yes, on motivating the adult learner, which will be a 3-part series commitment. And our South Dakota All PD funding will be paying your registration fee if you register through the link provided, and we'll facilitate that discussion. It talks all about your time commitments and everything else with it. So I hope that people will consider participating in that study circle coming up. And we also have 2 more events. One of the people is here. She was a minute ago. I'm not seeing her. Sorry. But Desiree Krantz from Rapid City will be sharing with us next month. And then Heather Glidewell will be with us in June to share some PD as well related to writing development. So thank you all. You have a good weekend. Enjoy your holiday.
Well
Thank you
done.
all. It
Thank
was a
you.
joy to be with you.
Likewise. Take care, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Steve.
Steve.
Thank you.